Assistant Minister for the Republic. It looks like he's going to go to God. Well, not the MP. He'll stay on likely in the front bench. He's got some other bits to his portfolio. But the talk is the Prime Minister's going to dump this Republic title on his front bench. And, of course, heightened speculation today of a mid-year reshuffle. Well, I think that's right. They've got to dump that title out of that area. And they've also got to dump some that are underperformers. I mean, I cannot believe they can go to an election with Claire O'Neill and Andrew Giles in those particular immigration portfolios. I think there'd be a massive campaign liability, both of them. Do you think we're going to have a reshuffle over the break?
Well, just on the point about the Republican assistant minister, that's pretty small beer in the broader picture. Anthony Albanese has made it clear, even today, that he's not going to embark on any more referendums. The last thing he wants to do about that terrible mistake he made about promising to hold a referendum on the Indigenous voice to Parliament is have another referendum. And so that's out of the question. And I think that the much larger question is about a reshuffle, not just on the front bench of the government, but on the front bench of the opposition. And I think that the government certainly needs to dump some of these underperformers. Once we get past some of the immigration issues, we need to see a big shake-up in immigration and home affairs. They have been a complete failure for the entire period of the Albanese government. That's just the start. I think that Jim Chalmers is obviously doing the best he can, but I think that at the same time, Peter Dutton needs to look at firing up some and promoting some of the younger, more junior people he has in positions, because I think some of the senior team are not cutting through. And, you know, when push comes to shove, we're going to have an election in the next 12 months and people will be looking for an credible alternative, not just Prime Minister, but team. And Peter Dutton can't do it all on his own, and nor can Anthony Albanese.
I have to say I agree with you on the coalition as much as I agree with you on Labor. I think Dutton's got some dead wood. I think he's got some lazy buggers in there that he needs to send back to the back of the backbench to wake them up a bit and put some young and hungry ones out there at the front, because it does look like he really is the tent pole there for the opposition. There's not a spread of effort as there should be when they're this promising in the polls. I wrote about this yesterday. We'll finish here if we can, Dennis. The judgment of the PM in his office. I wrote about this yesterday. This is the decision by the Prime Minister to evict his tenant. It got a huge reaction in the paper. I mean, he's got 4 homes to live in, 2, of course, that we pay for. The bloke he's kicking out, well, he's just got 1 home. He'll be kicked out and into the rental market in the middle of a housing crisis. Absolutely, he's got the right to decide who lives in his house, right? That's the gift of any landlord. But you've got to question the political judgment of the PM at this time, don't you?
Well, I think you're being a bit harsh and a little bit unfair there, Peter. Prime Ministers can't win on this.
In what way?
The only thing they can do... Well, because if they are elected and they keep the investments they have, they keep shares they have, even if they put them in a trust like Malcolm Turnbull did, there's always a problem with what they've got. John Howard decided to get rid of all his shares when he became Prime Minister, and it was the only way to do it. And I think Anthony Albanese hasn't evicted his tenant. He's selling his house. And good on somebody from the Housing Commission who has an investment property. Good on him. Well done. And I think that he has handled it poorly. That's not entirely his fault. I don't think his office had anything to do really with what he was doing. It's always a bad look and it's always hard. Kevin Rudd's wife had to try and divest herself of her very, interesting business, a very vigorous business. And so I think
Come on, Dennis, I can't disagree with you here.
No.
I can't agree with you. I can't agree with you here. We're in the middle of a housing crisis. His office does know. His office would be involved in the decision because they have to update the ministerial entitlement, so it is a discussion internally. But the third point I'd make, John Howard in the end didn't rent out his home in Woolston Croft because it was just not worth the political headache. And Abbott never rented out his family home. I mean, he always said, if I'm living in a house courtesy of the taxpayer, I look like I'm greedy if I rent out my private home at the same time. Why does the Prime Minister, given he's got 2 homes, it's a housing crisis, he was a single man, it's not like he's going to sell this house and he and Jodie are going to move into it or any of these properties while he's got the Lodge and Kirribilli. I just think it's an own goal at a time when he's on the back foot over housing.
Well, I disagree with you, Peter. I think that he didn't have any choice. Yes, the headlines haven't been good. He actually persevered with a lower rent during the COVID pandemic. He was a good landlord. He wants to sell the house. OK, and, you know, let's move on from it. He's got to do it.
All right.
And I think that, yes, he would have told the office and he's got to do the registration. I understand all of that, but I'm sure that he didn't go into his office and ask them whether he should sell his house or not. So, yes, we can agree to disagree on that, Peter, but I don't think that PMs of any flavour can win on this issue.
I like a bit of civil disagreement, Dennis Shanahan, on this program. You'll stay on the PM's Christmas card list, and I suspect I'm off it, but I think I was off it anyway. Good to see you, Dennis. We'll see you next